Imagine opening your front door to find a bright red envelope nailed there like a scarlet letter. Screaming $4 million fine in all caps. Courtesy of your neighborhood HOA tyrant. Now picture that same self-righteous Karen. Clipboard in hand. Smirking as she parades your supposed crimes before a gawking crowd, only for her empire to crumble when you reveal the one thing she never saw coming: you own the only way in or out of her precious gated paradise. In the sleepy suburbs of Willow Creek, Michigan, where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets under the relentless summer sun, Jack Harlan thought he'd finally escaped the city's chaos. He'd inherited his grandpa's modest lakeside property, a couple of rickety cabins, a splintery dock, and a creaky old bridge that spanned a narrow inlet leading into the upscale neighborhood. It was supposed to be a quiet retirement spot, a place to fish at dawn and sip coffee while watching ducks paddle by. But quiet? Ha! The HOA had other plans. Enforced by their queen bee, Barbara Klein. A woman who wielded bylaws like a sledgehammer and smiled like she was doing you a favor while crushing your spirit. Jack had heard the rumors when he moved in. "Watch out for Barb," the mailman had whispered one day, glancing over his shoulder. "She fines you for breathing wrong." But Jack shrugged it off. He wasn't one to stir the pot. He'd spent years in corporate America, biting his tongue through endless meetings. So a little neighborhood nitpicking seemed harmless. That is, until the whispers turned to outright slander. It started small, a neighbor's offhand comment at the community barbecue about how Jack's cabins looked shady, like he was running some backwoods Airbnb racket. Then came the anonymous notes in the HOA newsletter, hinting at unauthorized commercial activity eroding property values. Jack knew the truth: families occasionally rented the cabins for weekend getaways, paying just enough to cover upkeep. No champagne brunches or infinity pools here, just leaky roofs and the occasional raccoon raid. But facts didn't matter in Barb's world. She thrived on control. And Jack's independent slice of land was a thorn in her perfectly pruned rosebush. One crisp morning, as Jack poured his second cup of black coffee, he heard the crunch of gravel outside. Peeking through the curtains, he saw Barb marching up his driveway, flanked by two of her cronies, retired busybodies with nothing better to do than enforce paint color codes. She slapped the notice on his door with a flourish, her pearl necklace glinting like armor. "Jack Harlan," she announced in that saccharine voice that dripped with false concern. "You've been warned. This is your official citation for operating an illegal resort on association-adjacent property. Fine, $4 million. Payable immediately. Or we'll lien your assets and evict you." Jack blinked. Coffee mug frozen mid-sip. $4 million? For what? The privilege of letting kids skip stones on his dock? He scanned the paper: charges of exploiting community resources, unpermitted commercial use, and devaluing neighborhood aesthetics. It was absurd. Like finding a lemonade stand for corporate espionage. Barb stood there, arms crossed, her Botox-smooth forehead barely wrinkling as she awaited his reaction. "This isn't personal, Jack," she cooed, though her eyes sparkled with glee. "It's about maintaining standards. We can't have riffraff turning our serene enclave into a tourist trap." The cronies nodded vigorously, one muttering, "Think of the children, strangers traipsing about." Jack felt the heat rise in his chest. But he kept his cool. He'd been smeared before, in his old job. Rumors of embezzlement had nearly cost him a promotion. All because a jealous colleague twisted facts. He knew better than to explode. Instead, he folded the notice neatly and tucked it away. "Barb, this is a mistake," he said evenly, his voice low like a gathering storm. "But if you insist on playing games, go ahead." She chuckled, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Games? Honey. This is the law. Our bylaws are ironclad. Pay up. Or pack up. As she sauntered away, Jack watched from his porch, noting how the neighbors slowed their jogs to stare. Phones already buzzing with gossip. Inside, he seethed, but he also observed. Barb's power relied on fear and facade. Crack that, and she'd shatter. Word spread like wildfire in Willow Creek's online forum. A digital cesspool where anonymity bred venom. Jack's running a secret motel empire, one post read. No wonder property taxes are up, he's leeching off our lake. Another, heard he's got shady guests, probably drugs. Jack read them all. His jaw clenched. But he didn't respond. Not yet. He knew reacting impulsively would play into Barb's hands. Instead, he dug into the HOA records, poring over dusty PDFs late into the night. What he found wasn't just overreach, it was outright grift. Buried in the budgets were line items for bridge maintenance fees and lake access tolls, charges every resident paid annually. But Jack's bridge? The one his grandpa had built in the 60s with calloused hands and sheer grit? It was an HOA property. The deed was clear as day, private ownership. No easement granted. Barb had been billing folks for something she didn't control. Pocketing the surplus for God knows what, maybe her endless supply of designer scarves. The next HOA meeting was a spectacle. Held in the community center under fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry bees. Barb presided like a judge. Gavel in hand, though it was just a fancy pen. Residents, she intoned, her voice echoing off the beige walls. We must address the blight in our midst. Mr. Harlan's unauthorized operations threaten our way of life. She projected slides, blurry photos of families picnicking by his cabins. Captioned illegal commerce. The crowd murmured approval. A few clapping like train seals. Jack sat in the back, binder in lap, listening as neighbors piled on. My kids play near there, what if it's unsafe, one woman whined. He's driving down our home values, a man barked. Barb nodded solemnly. Exactly. That's why the board has imposed this fine. Justice must be served. Jack raised his hand. Calm as a monk. When called, he stood. Barb. Those cabins have been family-owned for generations. No commerce beyond basic upkeep. But let's talk real threats, like how you've been charging everyone for my bridge. A hush fell. Barb's smile faltered for a split second. Nonsense. The bridge is a community asset. Jack opened his binder, holding up the deed. Not according to this. Recorded 1962. No easement. Every toll you've collected? Fraud. Whispers erupted. Barb banged her gavel pen. This meeting is about your violations. Not baseless accusations. But the seed was planted. Jack sat down, watching her squirm. A dark chuckle bubbling inside. The irony was delicious, she preached order while running a scam. Tension simmered. Then boiled. Barb escalated, sending inspectors to Jack's property unannounced. One day, a county official showed up, citing environmental hazards from the dock. Ms. Klein reported chemical runoff, he said. Clipboard poised. Jack showed him the water tests, pristine. She's wasting your time, Jack replied mildly. The inspector sighed. Third complaint this month. Next came the health department, alleging unsanitary cabins. Jack toured them through, spotless, if outdated. Barb's got a vendetta, he explained. The inspector nodded wearily. We get a lot from HOAs like hers. Meanwhile, the slander intensified. Flyers appeared in mailboxes, "Beware the bridge bandit, Jack Harlan's greed exposed." Neighbors avoided him at the grocery store, some crossing the street like he carried the plague. One evening, a group gathered outside his cabin, chanting "Pay or go away," led by Barb's top lackey. Jack watched from inside, heart pounding. But he documented everything: videos, timestamps, faces. Inside, he allied with unlikely helpers: old Mr. Ellis, a former cop with a nose for BS, and Lena, the neighborhood accountant who'd been fined for her non-conforming garden gnomes. Together, they unearthed more dirt. Fake invoices for bridge repairs that never happened, $10,000 here, $15,000 there. "She's embezzling," Lena whispered over coffee. "Using our dues for personal perks." Jack nodded, his patience a coiled spring. "She fears losing her throne. Let's make her sweat." The whispers grew louder. At coffee clutches, neighbors compared bills. "I paid $500 for bridge safety last year, where'd that go?" one asked. "To her vacation fund." "Probably," another snorted. Barb countered with a newsletter blast: "Harlan's lies, defending our community from saboteurs." But cracks showed. Her once-packed meetings dwindled, people skipped, citing HOA fatigue. Jack, ever observant, struck subtly. He posted online, politely, factually, scans of the deed and budget discrepancies. Comments flooded: "Is this for real? We've been robbed." Barb cornered him one afternoon by the bridge, her face flushed under the midday sun. "You think you're clever, spreading rumors," she hissed, finger jabbing like a dagger. "I'll bury you in court. Your grandpa's junk bridge won't save you." Jack met her gaze, voice dripping "Me. Junk? It's carried your Mercedes for years, free of charge. I might add, kindness." "Barb, not weakness." She stormed off, but her stride lacked its usual swagger. Inside, Jack laughed darkly. Her hypocrisy was comedy gold, preaching ethics while lining her pockets. The climax hit at the annual HOA assembly. A packed hall under glaring lights, air thick with anticipation. Barb took the stage, blazer impeccable, voice booming through the mic. "Tonight, we end this farce," she declared, slamming down a stack of papers. "Harlan's resort scam has cost us dearly. I move to enforce the fine and seize his assets." Cheers from her dwindling loyalists. But Jack rose, binder in hand, flanked by Ellis and Lena. "Before you vote," he said steadily, "consider this." He projected the deed, irrefutable, stamped, ancient but ironclad. No easement. "The bridge is mine. Every car here crossed it today, on my land." Gasps rippled. Then the bombshell: slides of forged invoices, siphoned funds, traced to Barb's accounts. "She's stolen from you," Jack said, voice rising like thunder. "Fake tolls, phantom repairs, all while fining us for breathing." The room erupted. "Is that true?" a man shouted. Barb sputtered, face twisting in rage. "Lies. He's manipulating you." But Ellis stood. "I called the authorities. IRS is on their way." Doors burst open, agents in suits, badges flashing. "Barbara Klein, you're under arrest for fraud and embezzlement." Her confident mask shattered, she went pale, then red, shrieking as cuffs clicked. "This is outrageous. He set me up. But the crowd watched in stunned silence. Then murmurs of relief. As they dragged her out, kicking and protesting, Jack felt the rush, justice. Sweet and savage. In the aftermath, Willow Creek breathed freely. The HOA dissolved amid audits, refunds trickled back to residents. Jack kept the bridge open, charging nothing. Just as Grandpa intended. Families returned to the lake. Laughter replacing fear. But scars lingered, trust eroded. Eyes opened to petty tyrants in suburbia. Jack sat on his porch one evening, deed in lap, reflecting on the absurdity, a woman undone by her own greed. Her order exposed as chaos. Yet whispers of similar scams in nearby towns hinted this wasn't over. As the sun dipped, casting golden light on the bridge, Jack wondered aloud to the empty air. Was Jack the hero for exposing the fraud? Or just another control freak using his bridge to settle scores? Or is the real villain the system that lets Karens like Barb thrive unchecked?